Right then. Welcome back to Water Fan TV. Fan chat time. Matt Sadler sacked. And where do we go from here? But before I've got specific questions for the team this time, and we're going to get into those in a minute. But what a welcome victory that was, and a surprising all change away to Crewe. So who wants to speak about that one first? Do you want to go, Daz?
Okay, I'll go first. There's nothing like beating Crewe, is there? The fact we played so well yesterday, the fact it was probably the most complete performance of the season, was only kind of it was only bettered by the fact it was against Crewe. It's especially delightful to put one over them, and I loved it, absolutely loved it. Bit of oxygen.
Well, I'm still smarting from the 2-leg playoff game against Crewe, where we lost something like about 10-2 or whatever it was.
Yeah. As you can probably hear, I'm not in the greatest of health. I've spent most of the weekend in bed, sort of dosing up, so I was absolutely gutted to miss yesterday. I did have a feeling that something like that was going to happen, particularly with me not being there. It always seems to spark.
New manager bounce as well.
Yeah, but brilliant. Yeah, great victory, and just on a personal point of view, just gutted I wasn't there myself.
Yeah, well, me and Stephen had sort of made the decision earlier in the week that we weren't going to go. Just frustrated with the world, really. Mm-hmm. And then obviously regretted it. But we did manage to get in front of a screen, so saw all the game. So that was good. But would have been nice to have been there cheering the boys on, as it were. Frank, what do you think?
Loved it. It was my first double, so it was my first double that I've seen Walsall win a home and an away match. So it was nice to see us finally get it. It was nice to go back to a place where we won last time, but we didn't get promoted. It was really nice. And Byfield, it was a fresh air. Watching the ball just come forward, every single attack, every single time. The amount of goals, we should have been 5-0 up. That should have been a 5-0 win. And it was fun to finally look at that and looking at the XG. It was just wow. It was a much better fresh air from Tuesday, where you were sitting there going, "Oh my god, this is depressing. What is happening here?" The players, and then to go over, then to everyone in the fan base. It was just for first goal, 4th minute. It was shocking, and then we just hit the ground winning. It was amazing to watch.
Yeah. Right, Darren, did you get there?
Yeah, I just overriding smile on my face on a Saturday night. Enjoyed it. It was like, what is this? So I'm well up for next week as well. Where it's become a chore, it's become I was I'm beaming now. It's so good to just see something different, I think. And I saw a stat. I don't know how true this stat is. But, I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but I saw a stat earlier that was our first win in March since away from home since 2017 or something like that. Yeah, it's something daft. Wow. So, yeah, that tells you about our end of season slump, right? But, yeah, it's just great. It was the team. I'm sure we'll get onto it, but seeing that team selection gave me, I was like, yeah, okay, something new.
Well, there was a word out that Aidan Flint was suspended, but I don't think he was. I think he's just didn't select him.
No, he took Matt out as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
Flint would not have worked in that system. He's too slow. It gave the defenders the able to move and the ability to stand where they needed to stand. It was so much freedom for the defenders.
Dad said 2 weeks ago. You can't play Flint anything other than a back three, right?
Yeah, that's that. Yeah,
I had the WM commentary on yesterday, and the WM reporter confirmed after the game with Sadler that the 4 players that were left out the squad, that none of them were ill or injured. They were all left out.
You're used to saying Sadler, aren't you?
Is that what I said? Sorry. I do apologise.
Oh dear, and it's nice to see nicely Presley, David Pye comment there. Give him the service, he scores goals. and he's on seven for the season now, isn't he? I think so. All good.
Sorry to, like Daz always says this as well. I think the best thing about the weekend was that feeling of being all together, sort of feeling. Do you know what I mean? Go on, Daz.
Absolutely. Oh, we remembered who we were yesterday.
Yeah,
we remembered who we were. It was you saw the way the players reacted afterwards. The train station after the game, the contrast to the train station the end of last season, the train station yesterday. Remember who we were? We went back to Warsaw mode yesterday. It was great. While you're on, just so apologies for labouring the point. The video that come out on Friday where we need you, we need you to sing, we need you to be loud. The fans weren't the ones that went missing, chaps. The fans have been here all the way along.
That's right. Yeah,
went missing. Might have been a slightly difficult video. We need you to one or two of the players, but they'd have been closer to the mark.
Yeah.
It was when we got that corner and Hancock celebrated in front of the fans, like, come on, not seeing that all this whole season for a long time.
No.
Hancock, it's like, that was it. This is the different feel.
Right then. Let's get into some questions, shall we? I've got a joint question at the end. But we'll go for the first one. We're going to Daz first. Will we look back on Matt Sadler's time as Walsall manager as relatively successful?
That's a really difficult place to start, Simon. To be honest with you, I tweeted in the week that my most basic kind of measurement if a manager's kind of done okay or done well or badly. Was what he leaves better than what he started with?
Yeah.
And what he left was better than what he started with, partly because of him, partly because of the squad building that's gone on. He didn't take us out of the division. He should have, and he didn't. And for all the highs, there were lows as well. But I think he probably paid the price in the end. We joked for a number of years that 16th was our position. And he probably paid the price in the end for changing that expectation. 16th is not acceptable for this football club at this time. And as we were drifting back into 16th, the Trevella had made the only decision they could. So I think history will be kinder to him than as time progresses. He did move us forward. He didn't do the job he was brought in to do, but I think he paid the price for moving expectation up.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Question for Darren. Sort of it's on a similar vein, really. The phrase "careful what you wish for" has been bandied out a lot about Sadler. Best win rate, best win percentage in 25 years, and we've sacked him. Could we have made a huge mistake sacking Matt Sadler?
No. Best win rate percentage
Darren.
in League Two. We can't. For me, it's like it's a funny stat because I'm not going to argue that we've been at the top end of the league in the 2 or 3 years since he's been here, but you can't compare him with like Colin Lee, for example, with what he did in the Championship or Graydon or anything. So for me, it's a bit of a, let's look at the win percentages and who's managed in each league. For me, because I think less wins is more in the would be worth more in the Championship when we stayed up. I think that's a massive achievement personally. But I think he came to the end of his time, didn't he? I don't think it was only going one way. The fans had gone. There is. I think it's a wider point to talk about is what they do with this next appointment because it seems critical to me. I know we boyoed after the weekend and the change in formation and the performance, but I think we still need to get this appointment right. It's almost pointless. But I can see a few of the comments at the bottom. At the end of the day, can congratulate him on the 9 straight wins. that's not been done before. At the end of the day, we didn't get promoted.
Yeah,
I couldn't care less.
I think as far as win percentage, I think the next one without checking was Richard Money, and that was in the League Two as well.
And League One for a bit. Remember, we were in the top half of League One until he had the rug pulled on the infamous transfer deadline day night, right?
Yeah, we don't do well with transfers.
Well, let's not talk about January. I think we've talked about that enough. But yeah, I think it was the right time now. I think we need something to get behind, and as Dad said, to be I think we're stronger together. And the only way that was going to happen was if we recovered the form or a new manager, personally.
Yeah. Question for Phil. The rumour is that he wasn't actually sacked and Matt Sadler walked due to the online abuse. Would you blame him?
Well, first of all, I don't believe that rumour for a second. Whatever you think of his football, I think Matt Sadler's a far more intelligent person than that. I don't think he's likely to walk away from what's presumably a pretty good contract, which still had over 2 years left to run. He was dismissed because the results weren't good enough, and that's ultimately the end point for most managers.
Yeah.
Secondly, regarding social media, I think it would be quite hypocritical of me to sort of sit here and criticise people who use social media to express opinions about football, because that's exactly what we're all doing at the moment. Look, everyone's got their own opinions. Social media gives people a platform to express those opinions. And as long as it doesn't overstep the mark, as long as it doesn't get personal, I personally don't have too much of a problem with it. Yes, I think the PE teacher remarks, the clown comments, the clown emojis, they're cheap shots. They're unnecessary. I don't like that sort of thing. I appreciate it. It's important to us all. We all care passionately about it, but there's no excuse, I don't think, for rudeness or personal abuse. But but at the same time, if after example, for example, Barnet at home or Milton Keynes Dons at home, somebody puts on social media, it's time for Matt Sadler to go. I don't like the style of football. I'm not going to get a season ticket if he's manager next season. I think that's fair enough, and I think it's a perfectly valid and understandable opinion to express. Look, it must be frustrating for managers to read criticism. Like, nobody likes receiving any criticism. But my advice would be, if you haven't won home games, it's Boxing Day, and if you're on a run of 1 win from 7 matches, it's if you're feeling a bit fragile, it's probably not a good idea to check the social media comments and the result. You're probably not going to find much positive stuff there. Personally, I don't post much on social media, but I do like to read the fan sites and listen to the podcasts and things like that. And I think on the whole, most of the opinions that are expressed on those are balanced and they're sensible. You always get a few people who go too far, but social media, it's part of life now. It's part of sport, and I think it's something that players and managers have to accept and negotiate. And just as long as users are making sure that their comments aren't personal or invidious, I think everybody should be able to express fair and balanced opinions where they want to.
Yeah. Got you. It is a difficult one, and social media, because it's unrestricted effectively. Some comments do sort of get out of hand, don't they? Talking, obviously Matt Sadler's gone now, and we're looking at options. Question for Frankie. Darren Moore, he's been put in the frame, in charge to the end of the season. Would that be a perfect role for him? Maybe if you could get us back into playoffs, and even perhaps promotion, massive boost for his CV. What do you think, Darren Moore, Frankie?
Darren Moore is a very good manager. He did really well with, as we saw last season, with Vale. He did really well when he was at West Brom, and he's a very good manager. He will cost a fortune. That is, I think, the biggest question of the matter is how much are knowing the club, how much are they willing to give a manager even if it is to the end of the season, how much are they willing to spend on a manager to get us promoted? That's the part that I question, because they could have got a proper manager instead of Sadler, but they didn't. They dodged the question because they wanted to get someone cheaper, easier to fit the system. That's the thing. I think Darren Moore would be great. He got West Brom to the playoffs, but was unfortunately sat before that. He got Vale promoted automatically last season. And then he had the famous Sheffield Wednesday promotion where he got them to the playoffs. They were then 4-0 down against Barnsley and came back and won on penalties in a fight. And scored 4 goals, came back, got 5-5 at the end, and they won on penalties. That was an amazing game. And then they got promoted from that. So he is a really established manager. He knows how to get teams promoted. He's done it in this division. He's done it in the division above. He's got teams to the champ. He got West Brom to a playoff. So he would be he'd be a good manager to suit the system into getting us promoted. The question is the club willing to work it? Is he willing to work with the Travella? And do we need him if Byfield, or do we trust Byfield? Is the main question, because Byfield will be a lot cheaper. And that's the main thing is the price, because you could we could bring
it depends what the budget is surrounding it, isn't it? Interesting. I think for Darren Moore, it would be absolute perfection for his CV if he was to come in and get Walsall promoted.
He get himself a job in League One.
But as Frankie quite rightly said, that would be a very expensive option, even if it's short term. And then he proved when he went up with Port Vale that he didn't do too well with Port Vale without having a significantly better budget. Anybody got a quick comment on that before we go on to question 5? No? Okay. Question 5 for Phil. Andy Peakes, would he be a good long-term appointment? More experienced at 55. Great progress with Tamworth. Andy Peakes in the running for Northampton as well, I believe.
Yeah, he is. I think Andy Peakes is an interesting one. Yeah, I mean, if you look at what he's done at Tamworth, he's done a fabulous job there when he came in. And don't forget, prior to that, he'd also had 2 promotions and a cup win with Rushden, which is his previous club. He saved them from what looked like certain relegation in his first season. They had a 13-match unbeaten run. Then he had back-to-back championships, winning the Southern League Central Division and then the National League North. And he's established them as a very competitive National League side, despite being still being a part-time team in what is predominantly a full-time league now. And I think he clearly has the ability to make the best of what he's got, to be successful with a limited budget, make it, his teams are known for having, great spirit and camaraderie, for being more than the sum of their parts. And I think all of those are things that would appeal to Travella. The main cons for me are the fact that he's never managed in the Football League and he's never managed a full-time team. Although he is on a full-time contract himself, I understand. Yeah. Although the players are part-time, he is full-time, and he has got a contract till the end of next season. So if we did want to get him, we'd have to pay for him. I wouldn't think they'd let him go cheaply with what he's done at the club. Some have suggested he doesn't have a pro license. I don't know whether that's true or not, but they're comments that I've seen some people make. But thirdly, and perhaps most importantly, in terms of playing style, I've heard other people allude to this, but this is something that when I had a look earlier on today, this is comments from Mark Hughes, who's obviously at Carlisle now in the build-up to their game with Tamworth yesterday. So Mark Hughes said, "We're expecting a game that will be quite direct. They've got long throw-ins, excellent set-piece delivery, and they have guys that want to get the ball into your defensive third very quickly. You have to rise to the challenge. You've got to defend correctly and make sure you're not caught out by an honest set of lads who'll do all they can to stop you playing." Yeah. And I read that and thought, sound familiar?
That's what we should be doing.
Yeah, but look, so for anybody who wants a sort of a change in style of football, is probably not your man. He might argue that he's done what he has to do to be successful with the players that he's got and
Yeah.
the cards that he's been dealt. Maybe he would be capable of playing a better style with better players. But yeah, I think that the style that he would play would be a legitimate concern for many. But yeah, look, I think there's probably better candidates out there, but I think there's probably a lot worse as well.
Yeah, I got you. And I think he's done well, but I think that stepping up into the AFL is a big jump for him. And in some respects, maybe Northampton might be a better one because they are pretty much.
He's from Northampton.
Down.
But, you know, if you look
So
at what
he's sort of
Shrewsbury,
coming from a track there.
Yeah. Shrewsbury have just appointed a manager out the National League who's I mean, obviously Gavin Cowan started well at Shrewsbury. How long he can maintain it for remains to be seen. But you know, they've taken a similar route and it's worked out all right for them so far.
Yeah. Dave Member saying I think they'll go for somebody with promotion to League One history. That's an interesting thing. We're going to come on to a bit later. Next question for Daz. Dean Keats did well to get Andy Cook. But had problems managing him. How do you manage Aidan Flint? I think this might have been partly answered by Darren Byfield yesterday, because he's obviously a big character, isn't he, Aidan Flint? Daz?
What did Byfield say, just out of interest?
Well, he just didn't pick him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought I misunderstood. I thought you were saying that Byfield had something to say. No. I don't think it's. If you look back at Flint's kind of history and where he's been, he ain't left anywhere necessarily under a cloud. Maybe Swindon apart, but who can blame him on that one? I think he's been universally respected just about wherever he's been. I think he had. There was expectation at Middlesbrough after he went for £7 million that he probably didn't live up to. Yeah. You know what you're getting with Flint. I think he's going to tell you the truth. I think you can see there's a proper professional there with a huge desire to win. Standards have slipped. He's probably told a few people, or I hope he's told a few people. I'm not expecting Flint to be a difficult one to manage, and to be honest with you, I think if Flint doesn't get picked or is in a feature between now and the end of the season, the start of the summer, irrespective of where people are, I think Flint will make the decision of where he plays next year for us. So I don't think I suspect Flint is a proper professional. I think that's why he's there.
Yeah, I think perhaps the comparison with Andy Cook is probably an unfair one, because we know Andy Cook's a bit of an arse, and Andy Cook is Aidan Flint is obviously much more of a gentleman. But I did note it during some of our poor home performances where the crowd had started to turn, and Aidan Flint was sort of getting a bit wound up by the criticism. So that was my concern there. But I think
he's certainly a player that, because of his level of performance over the years, probably hasn't had to take too much criticism over time, and it might be new to him. But he's not the first footballer that we've had that doesn't like losing or doesn't seem to like losing. And if the dislike of defeat makes him a bit of an arse, I can live with that, mate.
Yeah. Okay, good one. Right then, this next one for Darren. This is specially picked for Darren, this one.
Cheers, mate.
The biggest positives from Matt Sadler's reign as manager.
Yeah, I'm gonna nick a bit what Daz said earlier. You know, I was obviously quite critical the last 12 months around the shambles of last season and what's happened this season. But you know, we were perennial. I was there at Scunthorpe away, and I came out that game thinking we're gone. I know that was when Flynn came in, but if we look at where we were then to where we were now. Like even the biggest Sadler critics, I guess, can't like look past that. Whether you agree with it or not, he's given us a style of play, I guess. It's another positive. But yeah, it'd be very, very difficult to argue against, the fact that we've been up in the top half of the table the last 2 years or so. So I think that's ultimately is going to be his legacy. I think is that he steadied a sinking ship. It's pushed us on a little bit. I think we wouldn't be having this conversation now if he'd have performed adequately, even averagely. That's a word. In the second half of last season, we wouldn't be having this conversation now. Unfortunately, we are. So, he's pushed us on, but I think we need someone to push us and push us to that next level. I don't think he would have got us promoted personally, but he's put us in the position that the next one can, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary, really. I think as Daz mentioned earlier on, he's leaving us in a better position than he arrived at. So Darren, we were around about 16th, and now we're competing. Go on, Daz.
Darren, you kind of what you described there reminded me perfectly of Kenny a bit.
Oh yeah, but slightly. Well, I was only 6 or 7 when that season happened. Yeah.
Steadied the boat.
Yeah.
Kind of moved us on. Was unlikely to get us promoted. Everything that he said there reminded me of Kenny a bit.
Yeah. Frank, what do you think will be the best lessons learned personally for Matt Sadler to take into his next role?
It would be to have a second style or a second idea of football, which I think was what caused the problems. His first style football worked at some games, and they have worked at the start of each start of the season. But as soon as a team is prepared to change up or understand how to beat Sadler, it's curtains, because he can't either midway through a game make the right subs and so bring in the right players to change the system up. He knows one thing, and that is Sadler ball, and what he does is he brings that in, plays that players, and when he needs a sub, it's a like-for-like sub. When we're winning and we're 1-0 up, those like-for-like subs are perfect because they then just drag the win. They can give us that 1-0 extra win. But we saw against Vale last season, when you need that extra goal, none of those subs or none of the tactics he can do give you that win. Give you give you the goal that made Ruth crucial, or give you anything to win. All any other team needs to do is score first, sit back, let us attack them, and they've won a game 1-2-0. And we saw this season, we saw last season. And if Sadler can take any lesson, it's a plan B.
Yeah, not being too rigid in his thinking. I think Dean Smith said, didn't he, the important thing with League 2, League 1, you need to be able to play different styles of football and need to change tactics a lot more so than even in the Premier League, where the Premier League, the system is pretty much set within reasonables, obviously. But in lower leagues, you've got to be more tactically aware. And I think, as Frank said, I think that plan B, I think we've all said, where's the plan B? Where's the change? And Darren Byfield gets his first opportunity, and the first thing he does is complete change. The crew were expecting 3-5-2, and the first half, they didn't know what hit them, really.
It was what Byfield did well is when we had a different formation with 4 at the back, and then when injuries happened and things happened, he then put 5 at the back, and then we scored 2 from that. So it's just that simple change where he was able to change the formation in the game, and it worked.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's not rocket science, really, so it's hard to understand why Matt Sadler hasn't done that. And I think as smart as a player, as a manager might be, a lot of managers are stubborn, aren't they? Stick to the way. Matt Taylor was the typical example. He would have played one up top. It wasn't working, but that's all he wanted to do, and landed on his sword because of it. So why is it that managers are like that? They sort of just stick to their one system, and even when it's failing, they don't respond. Anybody got any comment on that?
I think it's a double-edged sword, to be honest. I think, you know, some of the best managers have been stubborn at times. But I think it's, for me at least, it was the fact he was stubborn twice almost, and it was the same thing that happened twice, or even three. You could argue even three times in terms of not changing tactics or trying something different. So I can see kind of, if I'm trying to be as honest as I can be, I can kind of see it both ways. It's a good trait, but also in the moment it can be a bit too much sometimes as well.
Yeah.
Just very quickly, did anybody hear Alex Patterson's interview? I think it was either before the Notts County game or the Salford game. Can't remember which one it was, but he made a comment in his interview which I thought was quite significant. He said that something along the lines of, we've tried different formations and different parts in midfield, and he actually said, I think that's muddied the waters a little bit. Yeah. Which I thought was interesting. It implied that, you know, from a player's point of view, maybe there was a little bit of confusion about exactly which formation was best and which way they were going and what the plan was. You know, I thought the fact that he used that phrase "muddied the waters" was quite significant. Yeah.
Yeah. Next one for Phil. This is a deep and meaningful one. Are you ready?
Yeah, thanks for this one.
Do Travella want promotion for Walsall, or does League Two hold more opportunity for profit? Because with the January lack of ambition in some cases, sometimes it feels like they've put the brakes on and like now we're okay with League Two. We don't want to be diving into League One.
Okay.
What's your thoughts?
This is an important question because I sense there's a growing number of supporters at the moment who are maybe questioning their intentions and just how important the football side of things are to Travella. And I think naturally that happens more when things aren't going brilliantly on the pitch, which, let's face it, they haven't been lately. The truth is, none of us really know what Travella's intentions are and what their end game is. But we all heard what they said when they took over the club about, you know, caring passionately about football, about being accelerators, about, you know, wanting the club back in League One, etc. And I think as a fan group, it's kind of right that we hold them to that. We know being in League One would require more investment. I was looking earlier on now that the average wage of a League One footballer now is in excess of £200,000 a year. You've got a squad of 20 or so players earning that, then it's a big financial commitment. But, you know, I also would say League One would mean bigger crowds, higher prices, more match day revenue, TV money, sponsorship, etc. And surely their intention is to try and, you know, seek out as many of these opportunities as they can. Look, we understand football's a tough business, and I think, you know, our recent financial report highlights that. But for me, what's concerned me perhaps more than anything recently is their communication with the fans. And I think that's led to some fans questioning how much they still care. I think that some of the recent tweets that have come out from Ben Sadler, some comments in the press by Matt Sadler about almost being grateful that we're competitive in League Two, the uninspiring video update from Ben Boycott and Ben Sadler, none of those were very good PR acts, and I think rightly made some of the fans question what their intentions are. I think the next few months are critical for Travella. I really do. I think the next managerial appointment, the next transfer window, are opportunities for them to show that they're prepared to invest and, you know, make a push for League Two. Look, we're not expecting £1 million players to come in, and we know that some players will need to be sold to reinvest and balance the books. But I think if they get this next few months wrong, I think they'll quickly find out that languishing in League Two is a very unprofitable place to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think after they bought Walsall and Droda, and then buying Silkeborg like 8 million or whatever. It's like, if I can understand the multi-club model, but if your interest is really in developing the club, they've bought a lot of clubs very quickly without really sort of getting things up and running properly. If you've got enough money in the bank to be buying Silkeborg, then doing a little bit to make sure Walsall go up to League One was definitely within their budget. So that's the issue. So
18 million, Simon. 18 million, by the way.
18 million, sorry. Yeah, 18 million. That's madness, isn't it?
But I think when I talk about the communication as well, like when they first came in, I think there was a lot more communication. Like we had fairly regular video updates from Ben Boycott. You know, they came in and they said, we're going to get the freehold back to the club. They did it. We're going to reopen the Sadler's Club. They did it. We're going to improve the match day experience. They did it. Lately, we haven't had anything like that. It's all got a bit quiet and it's all got a bit stagnant for me. And I think their attempts to change that recently have not been very good. So for me, that's the big thing that needs to improve, as well as you know, as I said, taking this opportunity of the next window to prove to us all that they do mean business on the football side of things.
Yeah. My question to Daz: put yourself in the shoes of Trevella. How's it going for Trevella? Are they happy? And at what point would they look to exit?
Well, the first thing I asked Ben Boycott the first time he turned up is where is the end game? Where are you? Where do you get the payback? Because they're clearly not a charity. They're an investment company. And didn't really get an answer. Long term, we're in it for the long term. We're kind of we want to improve the club, and that whatever they're in it for will come naturally off the back of it. How's it going for Trevella? I don't think they thought it was anywhere near as difficult as it is getting out of League Two. To be fair to them, I don't think there were any Walsall supporters who thought it was going to be as hard as it is to get out of League Two. You know, I remember, and 6 years ago, reminding everyone that we took Burnley with all the resource Burnley have got and the size of the club that Burnley were in a non kind of external finance dominated bottom division. It took them 7 years to turn it around and get out. And I don't think that Trevella for 1 minute thought it was going to be this difficult to get out. And maybe we do get out this year, maybe we get out next year. But it's that I think they thought they were going to, you know, a bit of a tinker here, there and everywhere, and it'll be okay. I think it's been a shock. I'm happy for somebody to come on here and say, Darren, you're talking one of Trevella to tell me I'm talking rubbish, but I think they've been surprised. As you said, they came in saying they were going to accelerate to us getting out this division. They were talking about getting extra investment in when we got up. It's a while away yet by the look of it. What's their end game, or would they look to get out? At the moment, they just seem to be pumping money in, and I'm not sure that they're gonna. Well, I don't know. Will they get the money back if they got out now? I honestly don't know. But hopefully they're in it for the long term. Hopefully they will make good as the guys have already said, just about everything apart from promotion, just about everything they said they would do, they've done. I think some people won't agree with me. I think they deserve credit for the loyalty they showed to the manager as well. I think they gave him every chance. I know that I'm sure Darren doesn't agree with me for one, but I think they can't be accused of going too soon. And they gave him every chance. I think I'll go back to what I said. I think they're surprised at how hard it is to get out this division.
Yeah, I think if we could have got up last season and then been round about where Wimbledon are now, then everybody been applauding Trevella and everything in the garden be rosy, and there'd be no criticism towards Trevella at all. But obviously, what happened at the end of last season was partly due to the poor January transfer window, and our fall away this season again is the poor transfer window, and I don't think it would have taken much to have sort of given us that extra little bit. And as Daz quite rightly says, they have been patient with Matt Sadler. It would have been easy, and we know there's a lot of clubs that would have sacked the manager at the end of last season. And he got us performing back top of the table again. But then when it's falling away for a third season, they've had to do something, haven't they?
You can draw a line. Well, I can see a line for the kind of difficulties we've had in the last, whether it be 3 months or 15 months, take your pick, to an abysmal 2025 January 25 transfer window. Everything that has gone wrong or everything that's got messy is a consequence of not getting January 25 right and getting us out there, getting us out.
And for me,
that January 25 transfer window.
Yeah, and for me, that's completely unacceptable. Given we've got a director of football and this new recruitment chap, there's no way we should have had that January transfer window, in my opinion. Like, it's an absolute disgrace that they've. I mean, what was the thinking? Like, I don't. And going back to Phil's comment as well, I was happy earlier. I'm going to get angry again now. Going back
we used to it, Darren.
Yeah, about the media and talking. I want to know what Matt Jordan's role is in all of this. What is it? Hands-on? Is it not? Is it what? How was he involved in that window? Because I can't, for the life of me, think that window was that what they want. Like, seriously, I think the worrying thing is if that's what they plan to do. Rather than it being reactive. But it's every January now, isn't it? Like, it's getting ridiculous. So I think that, I mean, there's still a long way to go left in the season, really. Obviously, we all hope we can sneak in 7th place, but like, that's got to be one of the things that they look at and need to improve for me.
I think a concern for me is it seems like we've got more and more levels of management coming in. And what are these people doing? Now, I know some are Trevella Group and not strictly Walsall, as they're building up their world as it is. But roles and responsibilities for everybody it's like we got the new Mark Koretsky was supposedly taking over from Ben Boycott as the COO of Walsall, and I think he was at the fans forum, but where's he?
Not heard of him, have we? Really?
No. We'd think
since May, Simon. So if you look at it, since May, the playoff final, there's hot. I mean, we had that. I think I'm happy to call it a disgrace of a 9-minute video that was I couldn't believe how bad that was.
We got Mark Koretsky. Came in. We don't know what he is and what he's doing. If he's supposed to be here because Ben Boycott can't get over very often, well, he hasn't been here, so we haven't seen him. I wasn't at the fans forum. Was he actually there, or was it a virtual situation?
I didn't go to the last one. I'll be going to the next one.
Yeah. I'll be asking the same question that Daz asks every time: is what's the Trevella proposition if I invest? Which we won't get an answer to again. And then, you keep bringing in different levels, and they say financially we're losing money. Well, how many levels are you putting in? The more levels you put in, the more challenging you got to cover that wage and that kind of thing. But we'll move on from that. Let's just check me. Zaid was sort of disappointed with sack Sadler, but I think we've covered that. Agree with Daz. Travella thought it would be easy. Yeah.
To respond to that, Zaid, as well, I've seen he's commented quite a lot tonight, which is fair enough. We all support Walsall, different opinions. He should have gone after Barrow last year, mate. There you go.
I think the thing is, I think after Barrow last season, I agree. But then he did get us punching at the top of the division again. So that's
and failed
his decision.
I think he talked about. I've been watching his comments. I thought you mentioned the success Sadler's had. What success?
It's just compared to finishing 16th, I suppose.
If that's the bar, then I'm sorry, not good enough.
Jamie's comment is an interesting one. If he's not a family member, by the way, if they had wanted promotion, they would have invested in January, and that is the problem. Every other team seemed to have massively strengthened the team, and we didn't. Thinking time-wise, we sort of keep going. Darren, next question for you. Do you think Matt Sadler will have a successful career in management? Matt Taylor got his job in League One after being awful in League Two with Walsall.
Oh, yeah, that was really funny. He was at Shrewsbury, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Northampton look at him, actually, like as a firefighter to kind of, set up defensively, not to lose, and, try and stay up that way, which a lot of teams do, right? It's just like the Big Sam approach to staying up, isn't it? Or the Tony Pulis effect. Do you know what I mean? He might well do. I mean, if he's going to improve, I mean, as you know, I work a lot with like young footballers and stuff, coaching and whatever. And, the people and development's a real thing, and people change, become more experienced. If Sadler's going to become a successful manager, he has got to learn from these 3 years, right? And there's been a lot of you gave me the nice question earlier, but there has been positives. I'm not stupid. Like, I'm not, no one can argue with the fact that, as Daz said, we're better than where he took us over. Absolutely fine, but the way it was it goes back to the stubborn point, right? Like, he's got to learn from that for me. He's got to learn that sometimes you need to change it up, or, got to look at the recruitment style of football in certain aspects. But he could be, I'm not going to come here and say he's a terrible manager, and, that's not how it works, but he's got to have learned from these 3 years.
Yeah. Question for Frankie. The Northampton role is still open, and Northampton have had an interest in Matt Sadler. Could he save them? Do you think he's a manager that could turn it round and save it for them, keep them in League One?
Well, I've just looked at their next 9 fixtures, and they don't have any. All their games possible are either teams who are like fighting for the easiest team they've got are Wigan, and they're fighting to stay up at the moment, and they're fighting against relegation, and all the other teams are fighting for playoff spots. So they do have a lot of very hard games coming up, and I don't think knowing that Sadler has the chance there. I think they're second from bottom, they have a bit to climb up. Sadler doesn't have any prior history in keeping a team up, so there's nothing there that would say Sadler should keep them up. There's nothing there that Sadler probably would get him to like near to staying off in the last game of the season and probably get relegated. So
yeah,
I don't think, looking at the fixtures list, he would be a good manager for them.
I think with 9 games left and seriously in trouble, you don't need a nice guy, do you?
No, you don't need a manager that hasn't. You need a relegation specialist, someone who's proved himself at that kind of level and knowing how to get teams. Somebody
who's going to kick people in the arse and that sort of stuff, I guess. Just comment here, Lee Plant. I like Byfield. I thought he came across really well yesterday, and obviously his affection for the club. But I think people are getting carried away with one decent performance. Yeah, but he said that himself, Byfield, didn't he? If we don't put a performance in on Tuesday, then it doesn't mean that much. Tuesday against Cambridge. If we win that as well, then it certainly looks like we're back in a chance of making top 7. But if we lose that game, then we're sort of drifting again, aren't we?
You have to remember that a lot of teams, they get a manager bounce. So a lot of teams, when they bring a new manager, they'll go win the next game, and then that doesn't change their fortunes.
Yeah.
I think just quickly, Simon, I think as well, Crewe wouldn't have set up for that Saturday. Cambridge will know.
Well, I think that's the key. That's the key. And that draws me into my next question for Daz. The football style, does it need a reset or just back to the 3-5-2 high press like last season? That sort of answered itself a little bit. But I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Do we need to change our style?
I thought we looked better. I thought we looked better balanced. I thought we looked more effective playing the way we did yesterday. Is it a one-off? Time will tell. All I will say is the way that we were playing. I think I tweeted yesterday, I think we created more yesterday than we had in the year or 2026 combined compared to yesterday. Darren's right. Crewe would not have set up for that. And whoever scouted us for Cambridge, you can rip that up and throw that away because that is absolutely worthless now.
You've got to make people. Teams are going to be not knowing what to expect, haven't they?
Whoever's doing the dossier on us for Cambridge has had a very busy weekend, I would say. I don't think they've had much time today. The lack of a plan B was probably what did for him in the end. I hear what Phil was saying about Pats and saying he was the players kind of got muddied by what they were doing in midfield.
Yeah,
but it was. In many ways, it wasn't enough of a change. It was just a different colour of black. In many ways, a different shade of black, should I say? I thought yesterday was refreshing. I thought yesterday something we've been crying out for a while. We looked a lot better balanced. Lakin looked much more effective footballer in that position. Is 3-5-2 dead? I don't know, but I don't think it's. I think the yesterday showed there were other options as well.
Yeah. Comment there from the Arrestables, Matt Sadler. We know this is you. That's for Zaid. Zaid has been commenting on the channel for a long time, and he's definitely not Matt Sadler. I'll tell you that.
Just that comment that you've got there is really important, really relevant, and really important. Because we've been told all the way through that all the clubs play the same way. Yeah. Get that piece of paper, rip it up and throw it in the bin because we played a different way yesterday. So that's really a valid comment there.
I won't say who, right? But I had a chat with someone in the week who, I won't say who. And he told me that there have been internal discussions around the style and the way we play. So as you said, Daz, I think that's an evolving process now. I think they've realised with the backlash with the early birds and what's happened. I'm hoping they've learned that and it might be successful in some games. In some way, that might be the right way to play. But I get the impression after having that chat in the week that that they realise there's another way to do it. But I never believed Matt Jordan was that involved anyway, to be honest with you. But we'll see. Well, it'd be nice to hear from him, wouldn't
it? Wherever he is, wherever he is. As far as style's concerned, myself and Frankie went to the Academy Focus, and what Rob Williams was saying at the time, obviously he's moved on now, but he was saying we're going to play exactly the same through every single level of football. And even if you're 1 down with 5 minutes to play, we're still going to play exactly the same. And like we said at the time, didn't we, Frankie? It's like, that is madness. That is madness. And then I've heard from people saying that in the academy, they're not looking at players, skillful players. They just want athletes.
Yep. I've got first-hand experience of that. Absolutely true. It's not just Warsaw, by the way.
It just... But it mind boggles me because you can play direct football and you can play it on the floor. So I don't know why we have to play direct football in the air because it's just what's my problem. You can play that style of football on the floor and progress it straight to strikers as fast as possible, like looking much better than just hitting it hoofing every single time.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
The comment you just made about them looking for athletes, and Darren, it doesn't surprise me, mate. It does. You look at the Chelsea team that came in the whatever it's called now, Papa John's or whatever it is. Every single one of them was 6'1.5". They were all 13.5 stone. They could all do 60 meters in 6 seconds. They were all identical. It was like some squadron of stormtroopers out of Star Wars. You know, they were all identical. So it doesn't surprise me. And maybe it's an opportunity to be different. Maybe it's an opportunity not to go the same path and pick up players who fall out but have got different strengths. You know.
Aaron Ostuma, he wouldn't fit into that mould, but he's one of the best players we've had for a long time.
And to add to that, we saw last season that all you need is with Lowe, you just need one really, really good player who can score loads of goals, and then you just need that one really good player, and then if we do get him, we can sell him for a fortune. So this league, you can get you can get a striker or a winger or a midfielder that's really, really talented. He can drag you across the line sometimes.
I agree. Next question, Phil. As a fan, good entertainment and entertaining football, or functional to get you promoted? What do you want?
My counter question would be, why do you have to have one without the other? Would be my question. In terms of overall style, I'll be honest with you, I'm probably more in the Tony Pulis and Sam Allardyce camp in terms of, good football is winning football. If that makes me a dinosaur and people want to criticise me for that, then so be it. Ultimately, I want more sort of win games of football, and I want to see a team that's utilising its players in the best way in order to win games. Winning teams have to be functional. They have to be able to do the ugly parts of the game. They have to be solid without the ball and resilient and dog it out when they need to. However, and there is a book coming here, I do think one of our biggest issues has been that we have not been good enough with the ball. And whoever the manager is, they do need to make us better in possession of the ball. I think in discussions about this, I think people have got two things mixed up. I think there's a difference between playing a style of football, which is a low possession based game, and then just being crap in possession of the ball. I think that they're two different things. I'm not expecting us to suddenly morph into being prime Barcelona, but in some of the games this season and last season, I wince at the number of times some of our players give the ball away under no pressure. I get frustrated. I get frustrated by the number of times we go long instead of moving the ball wide or moving the ball into midfield. And I think that the pace and the crispness of the passing has to improve as well. But this comes down to two things. One, the manager has to encourage the players to be braver in possession of the ball and not take the easy option of going long, trusting them to and encouraging them to play more like that. But it does also come down to the quality of players that you pick. Yeah. We saw this yesterday. Albert Adoma is technically a good football player, and if you play him in his right position, he will make things happen. Look at the goals and the assist from yesterday. Look at Alex Patterson's first time ball through to Adoma for the third goal. I would argue that there are other midfielders in the team who would not have been able to make that pass with that quality. Yeah. So for me, Simon, the two things are not mutually exclusive. They can exist alongside each other. And I'm hoping that we have whoever the new manager is, that they instill these qualities in the team to help us move forward and get better.
I think in some respects, yesterday, we played the same way Sadler wanted us to play. High press, getting the ball forward and fairly low possession. But we did keep the ball better. I can remember at one point, Stephen commented, we're actually playing football. We're actually passing it to each other. And that just proves how far away from we'd gone from what we should have been doing.
I think the key stat yesterday was we had 67% pass accuracy, but when we won the Sadler recently, having 30% pass accuracy, and that is the biggest stat difference. 60% pass accuracy. That just shows we are able to pass the ball, and it's the biggest difference.
And I suppose it's the same thing again. I'm just checking the stats from yesterday. We had 33% possession, so our possession stats were still down, but we used it better. We made better use of it. There's nothing a Walsall team likes better than the opposition to just keep passing it around the back, waiting for us to take it off them.
Can I just say, I really hope we don't go down that road. I do not want to see a team that tippy taps the ball around between defence and midfield all day. I don't know what other people think, but I don't want to see that. I'm sorry, I just don't. For me, there's a difference between playing good football and just passing the ball to death around the midfield and the defence. I really hope we don't go down that road.
Yeah, I agree. Next question to Frankie. Now, this is a deep question for Frankie, because as a younger supporter, would you prefer to see Walsall always competing at the top end of League Two, or getting promoted, we can't cope, we come back down again, and being a bit of a yo-yo club, so up and down, sort of we get promoted and then we maybe drop back down? Or would you like to see us just top of the league, or competing at the top of the league every season like we have done the last 2 seasons? What would you prefer to see as a supporter?
I'd rather get promoted and stay in the division, but you had to choose the difference between them. The yo-yo, because at least it's the same. It's like, yes, there's a lot of talk about but at least you then have a season where you can be happy, and the next season you're sad, but then the next season you always have this enjoyment. But every season so far, it's an enjoyment somewhere, and then you just fall off, and then it's you just think really badly of us. Like last season, we'll have this really bad taste in everyone's mouth, even though that was the season we were first. We were so far ahead. If you said halfway through last season, around Christmas, after that amazing run, that the end of the season you're going to hate the season, looking back at it, you would have thought, why not? But you do now, and that is such a bad taste for the season that, in retrospect, if you take away that the second half of that season was fun and great to watch, it was a bit of history. But other than that, it was just painful, and was not nice feeling at the end of last season. And if you're going to have that every single season, if every season we start first and we drop down, and every single season it's like that, you kind of just it gets to a point of why there has to be some. It's really anticlimactic. You have to have a point where you enjoy it, and at least with a yo-yo, you have one season where you can enjoy, the next season depressing, but then you have a season of enjoyment.
I think for a fan, obviously Frank's not experienced this, which is a sad thing, but the memory of a promotion is a wonderful thing. And yes, obviously the depression of a relegation is not great, but I mean, if you, as you know, the mantra of the channel is the joy and the pain, and as Frankie just the joy of going up and then the pain of relegation, and being a bit of a yo-yo club, sometimes you need that. I was chatting to Phil just before we went on air, and sometimes that's a position you get into, the development of a club. You're not quite holding it in League One, but you're too good for League Two, and that's where you're building as a club. And we looked at the teams in League One. There's a lot of teams in League One that don't have big budgets. They don't have big budgets. So we wouldn't be sort of like a stray in League One. There's teams in there that sort of haven't got massive budget. And as we saw with Wimbledon are halfway up the league, and they've got a probably lower budget than Walsall have.
Look at a team like Lincoln. They're top of the table by a mile, and that's a properly run club that I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on how much money, if they get supported by a lot of money, but I can't imagine Lincoln have the massive financial backing.
I don't know personally, but you're probably right.
Taken over by Americans. Go on, Daz.
You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised.
Yeah. This is the problem with modern football. All athletes, but they don't have the technical ability. League Plant, and that's spot on, isn't it? And that's a shame. That's a shame. And I don't know whether it's Paul Merson, obviously a big fan of the channel and the club. You don't see players going past people anymore. It's all pass. And and in League Two, when we've got a player that goes past a player, he normally gets pulled down. But that's what as a fan, that gets people off the seats, doesn't it? And that's why having wingers and playing with wingers and what Adama did yesterday, it's exciting to watch a player go past another player. That's the real sort of get you off your seat, the excitement. And that's what we need more of. Next question for Darren. What type of manager do you want? Direct or possession-based, young developing or old experienced, passionate or professional?
Oh, definitely not long ball direct. As you know, I'm a romantic, I guess, when it comes to the football I want to see. I mean, for me, I always look back at, you talk about past promotions and how we got out the league. We can go back. I was there at Bury when I was about 8, when we got promoted. What a night. That still lives with me. So I hope, Frankie, that you get to experience that soon, hopefully. But I want to see progressive attacking football. If that comes through, like yesterday, fine. I'm not expecting us to play like Barcelona. I would prefer, if I had to pick, and I think Trivela will go down that route of probably someone that's younger. I think I'd be surprised if Trivela went down the experienced head route. It doesn't seem in their MO. I don't think. That's just the impression I get. Whether they panic at and they think they need for this 9 games, they might get someone in with a bit more experience. Wouldn't surprise me too much. But I just want to see football that puts smiles on faces, to be honest. And if that, at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want to go to a game and feel like we've, experienced something. Too many times over the last, in 2025 and the start of 2026, it's even, it's mind-numbing. So I want to see something that excites us, but ultimately it needs to be successful, right?
Yeah.
So I want to see Ronan Mayer given a chance. I want to see young players that have got a bit of technical ability given a chance, and that's what I would look at. I'm not going to sit, as I said, I'm not expecting us to play like prime Barcelona, but I want to see us actually play front foot football.
Did we almost get through a show without mentioning Ram?
Oh yeah, nearly. I can mention Kinsella if you want. As well, but yeah,
the thing is,
I'll get back in
with the way that Ram plays, is so
that formation.
He's got his feet. He's got so quick feet, and he's very tenacious as well. Yeah, but yeah, I get grief for mentioning Ram. People say like, "Oh, he's no good, or he'd be here." But I mean, you never know. He might get his chance with a new guy.
He's not a Sadler player, and again, that's fun coming from someone at the club.
No, yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? Right then, next one, we got Win Tuesday, and we could see a late arrival into the playoffs full of momentum and confidence. And quite often, the team that gets promoted is a team that comes into it late. Little do we realise we could possibly be that team after leading the division on Boxing Day. But you never know, do you? You never know. Right then, final question. This is for everybody, this one. Matt Sadler, who let him down the most? His own stubbornness, the players, or Trivela? I'll go Phil first.
I think ultimately it was more down to his own stubbornness, personally. I think some of the factors we've mentioned before, his inflexibility, his inability to change things when they weren't going well. This kind of weird way that certain players seem to go from being regulars to being frozen out of the team was very odd. He had long enough. He was given. I think Darren mentioned earlier about giving Trivela credit for being patient with Sadler and not pulling the trigger when lots would have done. I mean, we could probably go back as far as Alfreton away in the FA Cup when some people were calling for him to be sacked. And I'm glad they didn't do it then. They've given him time. He's had enough time. He's had enough opportunities to try and get the job done, to get it over the line. But I think ultimately that's what he'll be remembered as, a manager who did a lot of good things, made the squad competitive, got them into position, but couldn't finish the job. And I think ultimately his own stubbornness did contribute to that more often than not.
Yeah. Darren?
Yeah, I agree with what Phil was saying, really. I think essentially it was the stubbornness and the lack of plan B. Not to let Trivella off the hook, I think, as we mentioned with January, the last couple of years, I think that's important to mention as well. Like, so they definitely should not be let off the hook, and I think the lens does need to be on them as well. So I think it's a combination of the things that you mentioned, to be honest, rather than just one of the things. But I think ultimately it was that lack of stubbornness, plan B, imagination, creativity. I think that's what let him down in the end.
Yeah, and that's coming through in the comments, really. Arrogance and stubbornness. Apart from Zaid, he disagrees, which is not which is people have different opinions, and that's perfect. We don't mind that.
There wasn't arrogant. Well, he gaslit the fans a few times with these 20 point. We shouldn't be 20 points clear and stuff. That's not that's not way to win support.
Well, after the Salford game, he said it was a poor pitch, and I wasn't there, but people who were there were saying that pitch was fine. There's nothing wrong with the pitch.
Look fine. Like the pitch. It looked like the pitch we played on last season when we won 2-0. I didn't see it. Didn't anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Both teams struggled to pass on it. I kind of hadn't realised I was there, and it didn't look that bad. But then you look at the way both teams passed on it. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that one.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough. Right then, closing comments. We're obviously lifted by the performance Saturday, and the key thing is you got to follow it up. And if Darren Byfield can get one good performance out of them, but only one, that doesn't mean anything. So tactically, he's got lots of people around him. It was good that he pulled lots of people in rather than sort of saying the big I am. So if he's using the people around him and making smart decisions based on having the advice around him, then it all bodes well. Would you be happy with him continuing to the end of the season, Phil?
I'm not sure personally. I think we've all got excited about what happened yesterday. Let's see what happens on Tuesday. I don't think one win should be determining whether or not somebody takes the job till the end of the season. If they've got somebody, I think the other thing the counter argument to that is if they've got somebody in mind that they think they could get in now, surely it will be a good thing to let that guy oversee what he's got between now and the end of the season, make decisions on the players that are out of contract and who he wants to keep, who he wants to get rid of. So I could see an argument both sides. And let's see what happens on Tuesday. If we have a similar performance and a similar reaction to what happened yesterday, then I could understand them giving him till the end of the season. But as I say, I do think there's a counter argument, which is to say that if they've got somebody in mind who they want to bring in, giving them until the end of the season to have a proper look at what they've got and make some decisions on these players, because we've got a lot of players out of contract at the end of the season. And I think giving a manager time to assess those players properly would also be very beneficial to that, whoever that person is. Yeah,
got you. Darren, I just want you to reply to this for me, Darren. Albert Adama obviously was excellent and played a full 90 minutes. Is he going to be up to doing something similar on Tuesday, or is that asking too much?
Yeah, I think, he's very fit, isn't he? I feel bad, but I've been quite disparaging, but I've been a little bit like, yeah, like get rid of him. But I think the magic of seeing a winger play actually on the wing or wide and not being asked to track up and down as a right wing back or up front where he's not effective back to goal chasing. He seems fit as a fiddle to me. So,
That's a funny comment there from Gickle.
I think we're away from that.
If we're wrapping in cotton wool, we won't be in the playoffs.
No.
Yeah. And I think it's 25-26 playoffs. That's this year, isn't he?
Yeah.
So he's got the wrong one. I'll let you off though. That's final word, Frankie.
I think next non-Cambridge, we've got to remember they've got the guy in Cambridge. Got 2 days. They've got 3 days at the most to get ready to prepare for us. So we should be able to hit them in like a shock factor in a way that we did with Crewe. So I think Byfield has a good chance. It was a proper test on Tuesday because they are third and they are much better than us. They should beat us. So if Byfield can win, that is a testament to his ability. But overall, sticking to season, we're 3 points off, but same amount of games played. Sticking to season, bigger games coming up. Newport, we need the Newport. That's an even more interesting game because that's a must win. That's the game Sadler couldn't. That would be a game Sadler would never have won. So that's a test of his ability. And then we have Swindon coming up, and Swindon's a 6-pointer. So
Swindon have dropped off a bit, haven't they?
So I think Colchester, Swindon's a 6-pointer. So overall, I think we have some key games coming up, and Byfield could be the right man, but trust in the club. We have to trust in the club to make a decision, and I know that's going to be very
hard. Daz, Bromley, MK Dons, and Cambridge look like they've got the top 3 sorted. Notts County, Salford, Swindon, Chesterfield. They're dropping points, particularly Swindon. They've got less points in the last 6 than Walsall. Chesterfield up and down. Grimsby, Crewe, we've seen what they're made of. Can Walsall get into the top 7, you think?
Probably going to need 6 wins to get in the top 7. I think we're on 53. You're probably going to need 71, 72. Probably going to take 6 wins.
We're on 56.
Are we on 56? Okay, 5 wins.
Yeah.
Sorry. That kind of shows what I know. Probably going to need 5 wins and a draw somewhere or something like that. If we do get in the playoffs, I wouldn't want to playoffs for what it's worth. I think we're going to have to put a bit of form together to get into the playoffs. And I've seen Salford, I've seen Notts County twice, both of them. Seen Chesterfield twice. I'll take any of them in the playoffs if we get there. Literally any of them in the playoffs. So there ain't many good teams outside of or effective teams outside the top 3. But just one other thing. We spoke a lot about Sadler tonight. It wasn't all bad. Okay, there was some good stuff as well, and the nature of football management means you plug into a team, and then 12, 18 months, 2 years later, you unplug and you go somewhere else. Not many football managers showed this football club the respect that Matt Sadler did, and for all of the ills and for all of the frustrations, we were lucky to have him for a period of time.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to end it. I think he definitely improved us as a club, and he got us back to the top end of League 2. But I think, like a lot of managers, breaking out of a slump, there ain't many managers that can do that. And we're in another slump, and it needed a change.
Just one thing that, again, touching on what I think it might have been Daz said earlier on about raising expectations. There was I think it was John Coleman, the old Accrington manager, or the other one. Didn't he make a comment which said something along the lines of, you could raise expectations as a manager, but you can never lower them.
Yeah.
Is that right? Have I got that right?
Exactly.
I think yeah, I think, yeah.
That's perfect. Obviously, this has been an extra one talking about Sadler. Thanks, guys, for jumping in for it. Wolves Fan TV, thanks for watching. If you haven't already, subscribe, join the pain. Oh, loving it. Thanks for coming on, guys. Cheers. On to Tuesday.